Now, the second statement Pope Francis made was regarding the global pandemic, and Pope Francis released a book this week on December 1st, and he specifically in the book is quoted to be saying a couple of things regarding those who have protested against the pandemic restrictions that many governments have taken. And so I want to read one of those quotes. And it says, in his new book, Let Us Dream, The Path to a Better Future, to be released on December 1st, the head of the 1.3 billion member Roman Catholic Church lambasts those who protest the health measures aimed at reducing the spread of COVID-19. Some groups protested, refusing to keep their distance, marching against travel restrictions, as if measures that governments must impose for the good of their people constitute some kind of political assault on autonomy or personal freedom, he writes. Once again, a powerful statement made by Pope Francis. So when we talk about this, there's a couple of things that we have to highlight. One, what is the role of government in the life of Catholic Christians, and how should that authority be respected? Two, what does freedom mean? And three, what is our responsibility in this life to love one another? So the first thing is, what is that responsibility of government? Should government have the right to tell us that we have to wear masks, or that we can't gather in public places, or that we should stay home, or that they should close certain businesses? Well, Scripture tells us that government, from the very beginning, when government first forms in the first kingdoms of Israel, that government was really intended to guide its people towards what is right. And we see in the book of Judges, right before the kingdom of Israel begins to form, the people of Israel are sinning against God all the time. They're getting caught up in pagan worship. They are, and God has been sending them judges to lead them out of that and to defend them against the pagan peoples, and they've continued to constantly fail. And so the book of Judges closes with this line. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in their own sight. Everyone did what was right in their own sight. And that's really the challenge of being human, right? That oftentimes we all try and do what is right, but what we think is right may not be what is right for everyone. And so really the role of government is to lead its people towards solidarity, towards what is right for everyone, towards the greater good of everybody. And that certainly is no simple task, and governments fail to do that all the time. But that is essentially the role of government. And Jesus reminds us that when that is the case, when the government is trying to do what is right and is calling on us to do something that is just and good, then we should give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. And so, what is right? Well, that comes into the question of freedom. And I think the challenge for America is that our definition of our cultural definition of freedom often is in opposition to our religious understanding of freedom. Because culturally, America often treats freedom as doing whatever makes me happy. And we look at the early years of America, and we highlight that pursuit of happiness. That America is a place where we can do what we want in order to become happy. And that sounds nice. But at times, what we desire in order to be happy or comfortable results in the loss of others, at the harm of others. And so we have to consider what is truly right. And that's different than what our faith tells us is freedom. Drawing on John Paul II again, John Paul II has a wonderful quote about freedom. He says, "Freedom consists not in doing what we like, but in having the right to do what we ought." Or in other words, freedom does not consist in what we want to do, in the ability to do what we want to do or what we like to do, but in having the right to choose to do what we should. And that's a much different thing than American cultural freedom. It's something that goes far beyond that and can create a much better place for all humanity. And so when we look at something like asking us to wear masks or to stay indoors and avoid public gatherings, if it is truly in the best interest of all involved, if it can prevent the spread of the virus, then that's really a good thing. right? It's in the interest of our neighbor to not do those things. And of course, that is our mission in life, to love God, neighbor, and ourselves. Jesus tells us that that is the greatest commandment, to love God and our neighbor as ourselves. And so is wearing a mask and avoiding public gatherings and doing our best to diminish the spread of COVID-19 a way to love our neighbor? I think so. And now I know there are many people who question the efficacy of masks, or even question whether or not the pandemic is real. And I don't know that it's necessary to get into that. I don't know that I'm the right person to convince anyone of anything that they don't already think. But my encouragement to everyone, no matter where you stand, is to always keep in mind that as Christians we are called to not politicize our stance, and that we are called to shape our decisions and our actions by our faith, not by politics. And that we are called above the influence of anything to be people of truth and of good and sound reason, not to be people of conspiracy and cynicism. And so whatever decisions we're making, we have to be careful to tread that line of truth and good reason. And admittedly, these days with the state of mass media and fake news, it's becoming more challenging to do that. But it's a worthy effort that we all have to make. And the way I see it, yeah, wearing a mask is sometimes uncomfortable, and not seeing people that I want to see is a challenge. And I recognize that there are great economic impacts on people and financial effects of people who aren't able to work and all of that. And that's awful. But love always requires sacrifice. Anyone who has ever authentically loved another, whether it's in marriage or friendship or as loving a child or what have you, authentic love always requires sacrifice. In fact, the greatest love, the love that Jesus shows us, required the ultimate sacrifice. And so the way I see it, yeah, it's uncomfortable to wear a mask. Yeah, I'd love to be seeing more people than I'm able to right now. Yes, I'm empathetic to the financial impacts that it's having on people and the economic impact it's having on the world. But ultimately, if it means loving another, and if it means that people can live the abundant life that Jesus has promised us, then ultimately that's the right decision in my mind. And that's not an easy decision to make by any means. But God does not call us to comfort, but he calls us to greatness. And right now the world needs a lot of greatness, and this is really the perfect time to cast aside comfort. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for participating in this very first low-key Catholic show. Go become saints, love your neighbor, and I will see you next time.